Welcome to my YouTube channel, The Ranger Rush. My name is Tom Dianora. Um, I'm happy to be and excited to be starting this channel. I also write about the New York Rangers over at BlueShirtBanner.com. Been watching this team for over 25 years, so there's been a lot of good highs, but mostly pain and misery. So what better way to channel that than in my own channel to talk about our favorite hockey team, the Rangers. But in all seriousness, I'm looking forward to getting started with this. It's a fun new thing for me. I'll see what kind of cadence we settle into as the season gets going here. I imagine I'll be having at least once per week videos, if not more. I don't imagine I'll be doing game recaps for every single game. However, with that being said, the Rangers did play their first preseason game earlier tonight, today being Sunday. They beat the Boston Bruins 3-2 up in Boston. Again, preseason, we don't take the results too much into account, but it's always fun to watch. To watch hockey is always good, as you know, we're just now getting into fall. And also, really the main point of preseason is to keep an eye on certain players, how they're developing, guys who might be pushing for roster spots, that sort of thing. So with that, let's get right into it. So yes, I did watch this preseason game today instead of regular season NFL football. So judge me how you will based on that. But if you're watching this video, I'm guessing you'll be in the same boat as me. So that's good. So the first thing I noticed, actually, before we get into actual hockey, was MSG updated their little scoreboard on the screen, little score bug, I should say. Looked sharp, sleek, good, but the one thing that I want to see that we still don't have is a shot on goal tracker that almost every other team broadcast has, as do the national ones for the most part. So I expected a little more effort from MSG, especially this being the great Sam Rosen's final year in the booth with the Rangers. But maybe it's because the Rangers typically get outshot and they don't like to highlight that. I don't know. In any event, nothing we're not used to, since that's been all Ranger fans have been able to watch on the MSG broadcast since the beginning. And then shortly after I noticed that, wouldn't you know it, the Rangers found themselves down 1-0, less than 2 minutes into the game. That was a nice little, oh, hey, hockey is back. The Rangers are already losing. Just kidding. But after that early goal, they did settle down a bit. I thought they played pretty well in the first period. And then they got on the board themselves. It was right after a big penalty kill, a 5-on-3 they killed off. It was defenseman Victor Mancini, who really was relatively unknown, drafted a couple years ago in the 5th round, not really a highly touted prospect by any means. Kind of came on in AHL Hartford towards the end of last season, and really stood out in this game. And it was Mancini, good Italian name, always like that, who broke the ice for the Rangers, tying the game up with a nice shot from the slot through traffic, beating goalie Brandon Bussey of Boston. So that tied it up. But then the other, not too long after that, the Rangers got a power play of their own, and the other player who I thought really stood out, and I thought was by far the best player on the ice, was one of the handful of actual NHL regulars playing in this one, and that was Philip Hedl. So while it's not surprising to see a player of his stature look really good next to a bunch of, minor leaguers or borderline NHL players, when you think about what Hedl's been through with the concussion issues he had last season, he missed all but 10 regular season games, and then somehow came back for the playoffs, played a handful of postseason contests for the Rangers, but clearly was still kind of getting back in the flow of things. When you think about everything he's been through and the path back, where it for a while looked like he might not only not play at all again last season, but you're starting to think about his career and his overall well-being, and those concerns still don't go away. Concussions, the more you sustain, the more risk you have. So it's a little bit nerve-wracking, I guess, to watch him. You hope everything He doesn't have another incident like that. But as far as how he looked on the ice, I mean, he didn't look timid at all by any means. And sure enough, he scored power play goal, a real snipe from just inside the right circle to give the Rangers a 2-1 lead, which they took into the first intermission. And look, again, it's preseason. The wins and losses really don't mean anything. But to see Hedl get on the board like that and really just be flying over the ice, looked like he was having fun. Looked like he was just excited to be back and playing hockey and really had no limitations at all. Was really great to see, both from a sentimental standpoint and for what it might mean for the Rangers this season if he can stay healthy and produce closer to what he did or even build on what he did a couple years ago when he had 22 goals, 45 points. All of a sudden, that Rangers depth down the middle is looking real good. So anyway, Boston pushed back a bit in the second, eventually tied it. I believe it was shortly after goaltender Dylan Garand, again, minor leaguer for the Rangers, but a guy who I think could be in the mix for a backup job down the line. He came in from Louis Domingue, spicy pork and broccoli, we all remember. He gave up the second goal to Boston, and Boston kind of was pushing the Rangers around a bit in the second period. But it was 2-2 after two, and then the Rangers, I thought, played a much better third period than second. And once again, it was Hedl sparking the next goal, getting through the neutral zone, eventually getting the puck over to Alex Belzile, who fired a sharp angle shot that the Boston goaltender Michael DiPietro, frankly, should have stopped, but they all count. And it was once again Hedl figuring into the play. And the Rangers really put a solid third after that. They killed off a late penalty and walked away with a 3-2 win. Wins are always nice, but again, not the main thing you're looking for in preseason. So really encouraging, obviously, was to see Hedl back and just really flying around in a good way. Victor Mancini, surprise to me, didn't really think much about him. I know he had a good finish to the season in Hartford last year, but he looked excellent. He very mobile, good size, wasn't afraid to shoot the puck, and he ended up scoring on one of those shots. So by no degree do I think that he's going to, make the roster for the Rangers this season. But it's good to know that not only does the organization have a little bit more depth on the back end than maybe I or others thought, but in the case of injury or for whatever reason, if the Rangers need to call someone up to fill in for a game or two or more, he's another candidate that maybe they can feel a little confident in, and maybe down the line he becomes more a regular for them. But that was kind of a pleasant surprise. The other player I think most fans were really watching closely, I think there's a lot of buzz. Fans want to see if he can make the team this year, is Brennan Othmann, who the Rangers selected 16th overall, first round, 3 years ago. Personally, I'm not as high on Othmann as a lot of Rangers fans seem to be. He's known for his scoring and his shooting ability. He also has a tenacious, tough element to his game, physical element to his game, which is certainly not a bad thing. But and that was on display in this one tonight. He got into kind of an ongoing spat with the Bruins' Parker Wotherspoon after a hit in the first period that he laid on Wotherspoon. Then the two got in a fight towards the end of the second period. So good to see that he's not afraid to mix it up. But what the Rangers really need from him, what I want to see from him, is an ability to drive play offensively and contribute more even strength. Right? You look at his stats in Hartford last season in the AHL. In 65 games, he had 21 goals, 28 assists, 49 points. I mean, that looks pretty good, right? But you dig a little deeper. Of the 21 goals, 10 of them were on the power play. So, as we know, the Rangers already have an elite power play. Top unit is loaded. It's going to be hard enough for a great player like Alexis Lafreniere to crack that top unit, let alone a guy like Othmann who's just trying to crack the roster, right? So, with that all being said, the Rangers, they need more even strength play drivers. They don't need more, for lack of a better phrase, power play merchants. They've got plenty of those. So Hoffman did have a very good scoring chance in the third period. He drove the net. Jimmy Vesey got the puck there. As Hoffman was playing on the line with him. Good shot, good save by DiPietro for Boston. But overall, I want to see a little more driving of offense from Hoffman moving forward. So we'll see how the rest of the preseason goes. But again, I'm not particularly high on his chances of making the team. But I guess we'll see. So on that note, thinking about the forward lines, I mentioned there's really not a lot of room to crack the roster. There's maybe one, maybe two spots, but realistically, I think there's we're not more than one. And I think there's already a couple players who have the inside track to that spot. So if we look at the lines here, these are my projected lines. Again, we just played the first preseason game, so these could change. But as far as what I expect to see opening night, I think the top 9 are pretty safe, right? So, quick side note, I did flip the order of the first 2 lines. I know everybody thinks of the Kreider Zibanejad line as line number 1 because I think of Mika Zibanejad as the number 1 center. But not only did I think Vinny Trocheck had a better season than him last year to really be the Rangers' de facto number 1 center, but easily the Panarin, Trocheck, Lafreniere line was the Rangers' best line and most consistent line throughout the regular season last year. So I put them as number 1 just to kind of be consistent with that thinking. So no reason to break up that line. You have to think that Peter Laviolette's going to keep Kreider and Zibanejad together. All indications are that offseason acquisition Riley Smith will get the first crack on that line. I know with a lot of free agents going off the board and the Rangers not opening up as much cap space as they wanted to on July 1st, Riley Smith might not be the sexiest name to have acquired to give them some more scoring depth on the wing. But this is a very effective hockey player. A down year for him in Pittsburgh was still 40 points. So I think he's the kind of player with his forechecking ability, his tenacity, he could be what Kreider and Zibanejad need. Let's hope so. He'll at least get a shot to prove that. It's been really a revolving door in that right wing spot ever since Pavel Buchnevich was traded a few years ago. So hoping that Smith can maybe fit the bill for this season, at least as a 1-year stopgap before he hits unrestricted free agency. If not, they could try Capo Caco again there. There's been mixed results over the years. I thought he played well there 2 years ago when he himself had 40 points. And he really helps that line defensively. But last season when he got a look early on the first 20 or so games before he got hurt himself, they just did not score basically at all. So I think that Kako starts on a line with Hedl, with whom he's had some success in the past. And you got Will Cooley on the left side. I think slots in nicely on that line. That line was together for this game against the Bruins. And the fourth line, Jimmy Vesey, definitely a lock to make the team. You have Sam Carrick, who the Rangers did sign on July 1 as well. The big names are flying off the board. They added Sam Carrick under the radar. Depth, fourth line center. I have to think he's got the inside track for that role, basically the Barclay Goodrow replacement for about a quarter of the price, So the last spot where there might be some competition and where maybe Othman could make it is that fourth line right wing. But again, I don't think that he really makes sense as a fourth liner, getting limited minutes when you still want him to develop and get better. Don't know if that's best for him. Plus, I think guys like Matt Rempe and Johnny Brodzinski are probably the top candidates for that. Matt Rempe, I'll kind of save my discourse on him maybe for another time, but I did write for Blue Shirt Banner in the past. It was kind of the Rempe mania was taking the Rangers in the league by storm last year after he was called up. I thought it was very overblown. I thought his fighting was glorified and that we were making a lot of fuss for a player who played a few minutes a night and didn't do much else besides fight and chip in. He had the first goal of the playoffs, which was pretty funny, but otherwise not a huge factor tangibly. It was more the intangible energy that he brought. I think Laviolette and the coaching staff and the players really liked that. So I have to think he's going to have a chance to a very strong chance to make the roster here as a regular, maybe even as a 13th forward if he's not playing every night. But then you got veteran Johnny Brodzinski, who I think brings a nice element of speed and tenacity to that fourth line as well. I think the other guy in the mix might be Adam Edstrom, but my guess right now, again, depending a bit on how camp goes, would be that he's kind of on the outside looking in, but then I have Offman even below that. So maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Offman has a great remaining preseason and cracks the roster, but I'm not optimistic about his chances. So, but with that said, we'll see how the rest of the preseason goes. The Rangers play again Tuesday night at home against the Islanders. And so we'll see how the roster shakes out from there, and eventually getting ready for opening night in October. So that's about all I've got for now. Until then, go Rangers.